The time is 3:22 p.m. on June 6th, 2020 in the state of Texas. My name is Mickey, and welcome to another rendition of the Backyard Bullshit Podcast, Coronavirus Edition. I'm joined here by Dealer and Coolhand.
Hey everybody, it's Dealer, and my favorite ice pop flavor is blue.
This is Coolhand, and it's Rojo all the way.
Oh, no.
I love how the flavors of those are named after the colors and not necessarily, fruits and shit. So,
I mean, what fruit is it? What fruit is blue?
Flavors.
Yeah, come on, does anybody know what real flavor that is for blue?
fair enough. It's like the Gatorade flavors as well. So,
Cool blue, yeah.
So, as we march on further into the coronavirus pandemic, the winter sports have announced that they have a plan to come back. The NBA coming back on July 31st with an abridged season containing some of the better teams of the leagues, and the NHL is following suit with Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're going to have an abridged last bit of the season to figure out seeding, and then they're going to go straight into the playoff tournament, right?
So the NHL has said that regular season's over, and an amazing amount of teams, unprecedented, has made it. Basically, 77% of the teams in the league have made it to the playoffs, and it's a very unique seed where the top four teams in each division, in each side, they move on, automatically clinched. Playoffs, good to go. And then the remaining 12 teams on each side, they're going to have to do a little competing there, right? So of the 12 seeds there, it's very unique on each side there. You got four matchups, 8 teams. The 4 teams that have already clinched, they're going to play each other. And they're just going to kind of slug it out to see who gets the seeding of 1 through 4. You can lose. The Dallas Stars are one of those teams. So are the Avalanche, the Knights, and the St. Louis Blues, defending champs. The Dallas Stars can lose all their games of their round robin thing. They can suck. They can go 0-3, and they're just going to be number 4 whenever they get seeded in against the next round of playoffs there. So you have some unique setups where, on the other side you got Boston, you got Washington, you got the Lightning, and you got Philly all on the other side there. And so they're going to seed up against it. Meanwhile, the other teams that were not the top 4, they actually have a series elimination game. And they're going to play to get seeded into the playoffs. Then it would basically kind of look like a normal playoffs would. But they have a play-in round built into this playoffs, which a lot of teams really like, especially trash teams like the Chicago Blackhawks, who were sellers. They did not expect to make it to the playoffs, and they wouldn't have, frankly. So they sold off, and now they find themselves in the unique position of being in the playoffs. And they take on the Oilers in the first round.
Well, Dealer is correct. 77% of the league is now in this pseudo postseason we're having, and so while it's certainly congratulatory for some teams and head scratches for others, let's take a quick moment and either mourn or point and laugh at the teams that did not make the playoffs and whose season is just 100% over. You got the Buffalo Sabres, New Jersey Devils, Anaheim Ducks, the Los Angeles Kings, I almost said Angels there, the San Jose Sharks, man do they fall fast, the Ottawa Senators, and the Detroit Red Wings with a 17-49 record. Folks, if you're in those teams' positions, what would you do now that your season is permanently over? But Coolhand, you had something to say real fast.
Well, all I gotta say is, so the Buffalo Sabres fans have actually put up a GoFundMe page for a new owner to buy the Buffalo Sabres after this, because they have had some of the most unbelievable draft picks over the last 7 years, and they have done nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. Plus, it makes me happy them losing the 99 Stanley Cup, so the double bonus on that. But
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, it's you got some really great setups here coming into the playoffs, and I kind of want to get your opinion on this, Coolhand, on who you think and who you think is going to win these matchups here.
well,
So your first round, you got the Flames, the Calgary Flames, against the Jets.
so one thing that I think really is going to help all this stuff are older teams. Being able to take all this extra time off and being able to rest, they'll be able to come back and just get back to it right away. So teams that are older, I think, will really benefit the most from this time off. So in that case, I'm going with the Jets. They're the older team. They're more experienced. The Flames have some older players, but I just think the Jets are more experienced.
Ooh, okay. I'm actually going to go Flames on this one here. I'm going to err on the side of puck control players aren't going to be ready for the level of physicality and play. And that meaning that players who hit players can get warm a lot easier than some of the other people there, right?
Sure.
Matthew Tkachuk, he is going to be taking bodies. I guarantee you. Scheifele in those people, you're going to see some people try and be fancy. I see Tkachuk laying them down. And
What about Johnny Hockey?
ooh, well, the Jets do have Cody Eakin now, so.
That's true. I did forget to
Little timid there. So I don't know. I gotta go Flames on this one here. I think that they are just gonna beat the Jets into submission. It's a very good matchup, though. I think the hockey world's gonna like watching that, especially Canada. Up next, we have the Oilers taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. It's a 5-seed Oiler against the lowest seed Chicago Blackhawks. Who you got?
Well, the fact that the Oilers are, again, you want to talk about another team that's gotten lucky in the draft and been able to draft very high. I know one of their guys didn't work out. But the top to bottom, they're one of the most talented teams really ever. They had to get rid of Taylor Hall, for goodness sake. And so, and Connor McDavid is the best player in the game. And in this case, I'm going to go with the best player. I'm taking Connor McDavid, so I'm taking the Oilers. There's just too much talent there. They are experienced. I know they didn't make the playoffs last year, but 2 years ago they were in the Stanley Cup Finals. Or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago they were in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go with I'm going to be biased. Straight up. I'm going to admit that. I'm going to go the Chicago Blackhawks. I know, realistically, the Chicago Blackhawks take the L here. Realistically. Okay? But, because you got a team that sold off their better backup goalie. I know they came into it with Corey Crawford and Panda Bear, and Panda Bear was doing amazing and keeping them in it. But and now they're just stuck with Corey Crawford, and they actually sold off some other players too, key skaters. I believe that with the veteran experience here, backs up against the wall, they've just had a lot of time to rest up. You're going to have Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, Kubalik, DeBrincat, all with Crawford again.
Yeah.
I think
it does
that
kind
they
of
can
go
at
against
least
what I said
punch.
earlier, because they're
Yeah.
the way more experienced team.
Yeah, I think that they could really punch their way through the first round and take a few shockers there. On paper, though, that's a Blackhawks loss. Defiant Blackhawks fan, woohoo! Let's go Hawks! So that's me being ignorant. So hopefully I'm proven, and say let's go Hawks. My loyalty was rewarded, and if not, I'm gonna say, well, at least we sold off. So, up next we got a really great matchup. both of these teams, Stars know plenty about. We got the Vancouver Canucks and we got the Minnesota Wild.
That one's probably the toughest series for me to call. I think they're so even. I know they're a little off in the point standing, but I think they play similar styles. I do think the Canucks have the better goalkeeping right now. I never thought I'd say that about Jacob Markstrom. I saw that guy play a ton in San Antonio when he was still in the minors with the Panthers. And he is a monster. If he gets on, he is unstoppable. He is 6'5", and he's all of 6'5". And so I'm going to go with the better goalie in this one. So I'm taking the Canucks.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to go opposite here, frankly, because I want to see the Minnesota Wild take on the Stars. So I would love to see that rivalry, man. That would be a great freaking rivalry right there, spark up in the playoffs. So got to go Minnesota Wild here. I think the Minnesota Wild are a talented team. I think they can pull it off. I do see the talent, though, with the Canucks. I do see their goaltending being a huge benefit to them. So yeah, this is a good matchup here. Just like how we were talking about the Jets and the Flames, this is a close matchup. It's a good one. Rolling into a not so good matchup again. I like how it's good, bad. This is another bad one here. We have the Nashville Predators, the number 6 seed, against the Coyotes, Arizona Coyotes, who are the 11 seed.
So the NHL Coyotes are also loaded with some talent. Going out and getting Pacioretty in the offseason, I think was a nice move for them. But, again, I do feel like this one's going to favor the more experienced squad. So, just went blank on that team.
I'm going to go with
Predators. You know, they got Pecorine, they got PK Subban.
I'm going to go ahead.
What's that?
Yeah. I could see it. I could see your point here. And I'm going to side with you. I'm going to say Predators.
Yeah. I feel like it shouldn't be Predators. Everything tells me it should be Coyotes.
Ooh.
I do think they are the more talented team. I just think the Predators are the more ready team.
Okay. I'm gonna go with the Preds. You know, they have Pecorine is a phenomenal goalie. The Predators bring an element to the playoffs that everybody kind of undervalues every season, and it takes even the good teams that go to the Cup they get knocked on their butt and they go, wait a second, we're in for a real hockey. So I think the Predators, they're going to bring that bite. Taylor Hall has just been disappointing for the Arizona Coyotes. And, frankly, they lost a lot of their steam whenever he came into their sales. Maybe it was just the down part. Every team has the down parts of the season. And maybe adding Taylor Hall wasn't here.
He's a cancer.
Yeah, he could be.
Like,
so I think I'm going to go with the Predators in this one here. Like you said, playoff team, they're going to be ready to rock and roll. So I think that's interesting how we agree on that one there. And I think we disagreed on everything else. So I think we're going to have to see who goes out. But now the easiest thing. Easy, right? We got 4 teams. I feel like you and I can come to an agreement on who the 1, 2, 3, and 4 teams are going to be. What do you think? Between the Blues, Avs, Knights, and Stars. Do you think maybe we can come to an agreement? Maybe 2 out of 4, 3, or 4 out of 4? What do you think?
So I think just because the Stars are the most experienced team in the league. They are the oldest team in the league right now.
Okay.
So I think they're going to need the least time to really gear up. I think they'll be ready to rock. They might end up taking that 1 seed. I'm not sure on that, but like I said, I just, with Pavelski and Ben and Perry and, all these guys that have done it before, they'll be ready to rock as soon as this thing gets going. And to be honest with you, I'm not even really sure the seeding's going to end up mattering in this.
Yeah, I think it might, because you're I think it's going to be interesting because the number 1 seed, they're going to take on the winner between the Flames and the Jets. So that they got a tough one there. But the worst seed takes on the Oilers and the Hawks. Very interesting.
So I'm not sure I want to play against the best player in the league.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think I don't know, maybe they changed it up a little bit because you know how the NHL has been fluid and does this. But I would say I'm going to go Vegas gets the top seed, number 1 out of that. They have 2 phenomenal goalies and a power offense. So don't talk about their defense, though. So that Vegas gets the number 1 for me. Then I'm going to go with the defending champs, the Blues. Again, great defense, great offense. Only 1 good goalie, though. That's your difference there. Stars, I'm going to put them at number 3. 2 solid goalies. Fantastic defense. Like, the league loves their defense. Horrible offense.
Yeah, they're going to have to get some secondary scoring, that's for darn sure. Like, they can't rely on Radulov, Ben, and Sagan to do it all.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many games I've turned into with Stars where it's just, Stars have 1 goal heading into the 3rd period. Stars have 2 goals. Stars find themselves down, and I'm like, how are we losing at like a 1-0 game? Like, how can we not put a puck in the back of the net right now? So, and I think that's one thing that's going to be interesting is how long it takes for offense people to heat up. And that's going to be killer for the Stars. And, then I'm just going to give it to Avalanche at the bottom because they have the worst goalies, realistically.
Yeah, but they score a lot of goals. They score a lot of goals.
They do. And
they probably have the best front 6 in the game right now.
One of the things is that because the 4 of them are going to be playing each other, I think that you're going to see a lot of aggressive players working on their hits. Radulov and Ryan Reeves. And, you're going to have your enforcers out there working on their hits. And I think people like Jamie Benn are going to get rocked by a few hits, and they're going to get pissed. Because you have your lower tier skaters that are good skaters, but they're probably going to be a little bit, they're not your stars on your team, right? They're like your Foxa, right? He's going to get rocked by a few hits, and it's going to show because he's not going to be in mid-season form where he gets hit, he bounces back up and grabs the puck.
But guys like Ben, you got to remember Ben may be a scorer now, but Ben really came up as a power forward. His job was to really go out and lay the wood. They didn't realize that he was going to be that good of a scorer until later. It's the reason why he was a 5th-round pick. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of got Stars 1. I've got I've kind of got Vegas 2, but their defending is something to be desired, to say the least. Mm-hmm. I got the Avalanche 3, and then I got the Blues 4. I don't trust the Blues scoring right now. I think it's going to take a little while for Tarasenko to get going.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, well,
they really aren't a very good scoring team. If Tarasenko really isn't controlling the ice,
we'll go ahead and slide on over them, and to the Eastern Conference, where the top 4 teams are the Bruins, the Lightning, the Caps, and the Flyer. So
we're gonna have to run through this quick, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just gonna go ahead, lightning round it. I'm gonna I'm going to shock some people here. I'm going to say Caps, Bruins, Lightning, Flyers.
All right.
Ovi, they've got a lot of great leadership. Lightning, we've seen them come together quickly, strong. Bruins, good goaltending, and Flyers, poop. So, compared to those guys, Flyers, poop. So, that's my take on that. What about you?
I got Lightning 1, Bruins 2, Caps 3, and Flyers 4. I think the Flyers are still pretty young. They're trying to come back. They're just now getting back into being a good team.
Yeah.
The Lightning, I mean, they've shown the last 2 years during the regular season that the best regular season team maybe ever.
Yeah. 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 I think the last year's playoffs, that was embarrassing.
That was embarrassing. That's one of the worst upsets of all time.
I think you should be banned from the playoffs for a year after that. And then, so just we're gonna lightning around these next 4 matchups. We got the Toronto Maple Leafs at 8 versus the 9 spot Columbus Blue Jackets. Who you got?
I got the Maple Leafs. They're too stacked talent wise. The fact that they're only an 8 seed just blows my mind still. With 2 of the top 5 centers in the game and a decent defense, and you got some wing scoring too. Goalies are kind of Frederik Andersen's okay. He can be good at times, but I just don't think they should be as bad as they did.
Well, I'm just going to flat out say I think Matthews is a dick, so I'm going to go ahead and go with the Blues, and hopefully they work out some magic. Hopefully the Columbus Blue Jackets is very scientific of thinking there. And let's go.
An asshole. Fair enough.
Let's go Blue Jackets. As for then, we got the 5 seed Pittsburgh Sidney Crosby Penguins taking on the number 12 low seed Canadiens.
Well, frankly, the Canadiens don't belong in the playoffs at all. They got lucky. They snuck in. They went, Blackhawk style. Just if it wasn't for all this craziness, they would have never made the playoffs. They sold off their team. Like I said, they traded Pacioretty, and I know it was the offseason, to the Coyotes, but they were in a rebuild. And just because of what happened. Because, it really doesn't do you any good in the NHL to, be the worst team. Because you want to talk about a real lottery. That shit's all messed up.
Yeah.
And so they were mailing it in this year, and just because of the situation they got in. So I'm going to go with the Penguins. Plus they have, not only the fighting Sidney Crosbys, but also Yenny Malkin. So
when you say Pacioretty, are you saying Max?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on the Knights.
He's on the Knights now?
Yeah.
I've been saying
he went from the Canadiens to the Knights back in 2018.
That was the wrong guy. They traded somebody there.
And that player will remain a mystery as we have to move on to our next topic. Hope we will keep you guys updated on as the NHL playoffs proceed, and we will definitely give you our opinions on it. Now, for our next topic, you must take one player who is currently in whatever Hall of Fame of sport you choose. You must take one out, and you get to put a new one in of your choice. And we're going to go to Dealer first, and then Coolhand, and then I will wrap up this segment.
Yeah, that's... The Hall of Fame is one of those weird things where you have some really great players who made it in there and really belong in there. But you also have people who I don't believe belong in there at all. And my belief is that some people are getting in there that don't belong. There's people that are the Hall of Very Good, or the Hall of, hey, players liked you, fans, everybody else, meh, So there's a lot of people that you could take out. For instance, Harold Baines. I could take him out. And Harold Baines had a good career. However, one of the biggest issues with Harold Baines was he was a journeyman who didn't really have that solidified Hall of Fame wow career. This guy was constantly bouncing around. He had a very long career, spanned 3 decades. Very good. Good job on that. But playing until you're 42 years old, just swinging at the ball and then hitting a 131, come on. That's not really a Hall of Fame stud in my opinion. This guy was realistically a nice guy who made a lot of friends with the players. He could bop. I'll give you that. He could hit for average. He could hit for power. But he wasn't consistent enough on the game's output consistently playing, in my opinion, on appearances there. So that plate appearances really dipped for him. That's my opinion for I'd take out Harold Baines. Now, one person that I would put in is Barry Bonds. I really like how Barry Bonds was one of our all-time sluggers. Yeah, you could talk about steroids. Do steroids belong in there? What kind of impact does it make on the sport? I think that Barry he's been having a hard time on the ballots because of the whole steroid thing. He's still hanging around the game. He's still impacting players like Christian Yelich. I mean, you walk up to your average person who doesn't even follow baseball at all, and you say Barry Bonds, and they're going to go, oh, he's a slugger. You say Harold Baines, and they're going to say, who?
Right.
It's clear the impact that he had on the sport as a slugger. Could you put him in the Hall of Fame with an asterisk? Absolutely. Does the Hall of Fame need to recognize baseball's great performers? Absolutely. You want to take people out of the Hall of Fame due to, major personal incidents that are shameful to have in there? Okay, right? He hasn't done anything super shameful other than put drugs in his body and hit. You can take your steroids, but you still got to hit the ball. You can be the most yoked up man ever, and you still got to hit that 90-mile-an-hour ball. You got to know what you're doing. He knows what he's doing. He's still being a hitting coach, He's still out there teaching players. His impact is still on the game. This is not a dumb guy who just yoked up and got lucky like Jose Canseco's brother, who could occasionally catch up to a fastball. This is a legitimate, bona fide slugger who has impacted the baseball world. Everybody tuned in. Sosa, McGuire, Bonds. It was the slugging era, and Bonds was at the head of it all. That's my belief on who to put in, who to take out.
And to be fair, I've never been against the steroid use. First off, it technically wasn't against the game at the time. It was just an unwritten rule. And two, as of right now, the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame does not have its number 1 home run, number 1 hits guy, and number 2 in strikeouts are all not in the Hall of Fame.
Jeez.
So, there's something to be said.
Yeah.
Well, Coolhand, who are your picks for a player you would take out of a Hall of Fame and a player you would put in?
Alright, so the player I would take out, both of my picks are a little more old school. The guy I would take out, he was actually a 10-time All-Star, but back in the day, they used to play 2 All-Star games a year, so he was actually really a 7-time All-Star. He won 8 Gold Gloves, which is actually pretty impressive. But he also hit .260 for his career, had a .299 on-base percentage, slugged .367, which are all pretty bad numbers, and his career WAR is 36.5.
Ooh.
Okay, for a guy who played 17 years in the bigs. That's pretty freaking off. His name, he hit arguably the most famous home run in baseball history, is Bill Mazeroski.
Wow. Yeah.
I look at those numbers. Now, the fact that he's an 8-time Gold Glove winner, I can kind of give him that. Won the World Series twice, and again hit arguably the most famous home run in history. But I look at .260 batting average, under 300 on base percentage. I mean, that's pretty garbage. That is pretty garbage. He got in on the veterans vote, mostly because I think he's famous for that home run. So, now the other guy, if you look at his numbers, they are very air dependent. All right, 288. It's a pitcher. It's 288 wins, 3.34 ERA, and 4,700 innings. Right, basically very good, borderline-ish Hall of Famer. He did spend 15 years on the ballot. However, he was also a 4-time All-Star. Okay, but this gentleman contributes something to the game that truly changed players and how players basically make a living now. His name is Tommy John. And the reason why I think he deserves to get... He was already a borderline-ish Hall of Famer as it was. But the fact that he was the first person to have... It's actually elbow ligament replacement surgery. But it is called Tommy John surgery because he was the first one to have it successfully and come back and still have a legitimate career. And he was damn near a 300-game winner. And without Tommy John, how many guys' careers are ruined now? So that's kind of my argument for Tommy John. Part of this, too, is a lot of the guys that I felt should have been in the Hall of Fame, they've started putting in over the last 5-6 years. So every time I go to do this list, they put in the guy that I think should be put in. You know, the Tim Rames, the Larry Walkers, those guys of the world. That should have been in a long time ago. They finally got in. So, Tommy John's my choice. Not just because he did have an above average, if not borderline Hall of Fame career, but I just think his contribution on being the first successful elbow ligament replacement surgery, also known as Tommy John, really just saved a lot of careers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right. Tommy John getting into the Hall of Fame over the most famous home run hitter of all time. How about that? Well,
I agree that all those guys should be in, but I wasn't going to go with that route.
Oh, well. How about that then?
That's a topic for another time.
A topic for another time. Well, to close out this topic, I'm going to give my picks are for the NBA Hall of Fame. Now, if y'all might have caught on at this point, but I really do favor defense over offense in the NBA. I believe it is more entertaining to watch, especially if you have a good one, you know, with rim protection and steals and having all of those lead to easy buckets. I enjoy that. So that being said, the guy who I think should be in the Hall of Fame that for some reason isn't is a guy by the name of Ben Wallace. Now, I've previously mentioned Ben Wallace on the show as a member of the 2004 Detroit Pistons that beat the LA Lakers super team. Ben Wallace is a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. The only other person who's done that is a guy by the name of Dikembe Mutombo. He's that good of a defender. And as a center, he's only 6'9". When, I want to say the average height of centers back in the early 2000s era was maybe 6'11", 6'11" or 7 foot flat. So that's impressive.
I 1,000% agree with you, by the way.
Thank you. So yes, he is an NBA champion, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, and he made the All-NBA defensive first teams 5 times, and led the league in rebounding twice, and led the league in blocks once. So, now to the NBA's credit, he was a finalist for the Hall of Fame this past year, but barely missed it. So, in maybe about a year's time, this pick will be outdated. But yes, I do believe that Ben Wallace should be in the Hall of Fame, even more so considering that he went undrafted. He was not drafted into the NBA, and he still made that much of an impact. As for the guy I'd take out, there's a guy who played for the Detroit Pistons back in the late 80s, who had such a personal issue with Isaiah Thomas that he got traded to the Dallas Mavericks. That guy is Adrian Dantley. When you look at his career accolades, 6-time All-Star, that's impressive. 2-time All-NBA second team, fair enough. Rookie of the Year in 77, okay, he's definitely no slouch. And a 2-time scoring champion in 81 and 84. But this guy never made a championship, and unfortunately that is where his accolades end. But he is a member of the Hall of Fame. Coolhand, you mentioned earlier that there are players... No, actually, this is Dealer, my bad. Dealer, you said that there are players who belong in the Hall of Very Good, not Hall of Fame. And in my opinion, Adrian Dantley is one of those players. He's very good, but he's not a Hall of Famer, and especially not in comparison to Ben Wallace. And so that will close out this segment, and we're going to try to squeeze one more in here. I just want y'all to create the absolute scariest lineup possible in whatever sport you choose to make a team so scary by adding one player on that will make any opposing team quake in their boots before they step onto the ice, field, park, or court that you can think of. The only requirement is that the players and teams have to exist in the same era. So, for example, you can't put Nolan Ryan on the current Texas Rangers. And Dealer, we're going to go to you first, and then we're going to go to Coolhand, and then we're going to go to myself.
I'll actually have to save this for another topic because my time here has run out, and the dealer's got to cash in his chips. And you guys have a good podcast, and I'll be back for this topic or another topic next time. I'm Dealer. I'm cashing out.
Thanks for joining us, Dealer.
Thanks, Dealer. Stay safe out there.
All right. Well, Coolhand, what do you want to do? Do you want to continue on with this subject, or do you want to move on to our time permitting topic?
Let's move on to the time permitting. I'd like to hear what Dealer has to say on that.
So skip the scariest team topic and move on to the hottest sports take topic.
Yes.
All right. Well, Coolhand, what's your hottest sports take ever?
Ever.
The absolute hottest sports take that you genuinely believe in all of sports. What is it?
I'm going to go with Bob Gibson ruined baseball.
And why do you believe that? And would you mind providing some context for those who don't know? AKA me.
Bob Gibson was so good in 1968. He had a 1.12 ERA that they ended up lowering the pitcher's mound in order to increase the amount of offense. I love pitching matchups. I love to see a 1-0 game. I'm very, very few in that. I know there's going to be a lot of people who will get on me about that, but I love to watch a 1. Watching a real pitcher's duel just makes me smile. And when they lowered the pitching mound because of Bob Gibson, it really took that away.
Is there any relation between Bob Gibson and the current baseball player Kyle Gibson?
No, Bob Gibson is African.
Just had to ask because I didn't know who you're referring to. All right, so
Go back, 1968 Cardinals, one of the most dominant years ever by any.
And is Bob Gibson in the Hall of Fame?
Right, for goodness sakes.
I mean, yeah, that is beyond impressive. And I take it Bob Gibson's in the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Well, and he ruined baseball. How about that? All right, so my hottest sports take ever is that, well, ESPN recently released their top 100 NBA players of all time, according to their, in quotations here, experts. Yeah, as Coolhand mentioned, a lot of people had some disagreements, myself included, and my hottest sports take is this. At number 4, ESPN had Bill Russell as the 4th best NBA player of all time. My hot take is that Bill Russell is not a top 10 player of all time.
Okay.
Like, he has the most
11 championships.
Everyone uses the 11 championships, and yeah, that is a record that is never going to be broken. It's just impossible. You would have to be some Robert Ory or not Jeremy Lamb, but there was a guy who recently four-peated with the Warriors and then the Raptors, and then Steve Kerr with the Bulls and Spurs, and then Robert Ory with the Lakers and I think Spurs as well. Point being...
And Rockets.
And Rockets?
Yeah, he won his first 2 with the Rockets.
Nice.
And then he won a couple with the Lakers, then he won the rest with the Spurs.
So yeah, 11 championships. That's going to be impossible to beat. That being said, however, pound for pound, stat for stat, he is not the best center ever. He wasn't even the best center in his era. That was Wilt Chamberlain.
It was Wilt Chamberlain. I will give you that.
And
he played on a better team.
Yes, Bill Russell had better backup than Wilt Chamberlain, at least until he went to the Lakers, and that one time he was still with Philly. But you look at the work of NBA centers past or even soon after Bill Russell's time. The Stilt, Hakeem, Shaq, not quite Ben Wallace, because Ben Wallace is a very much one-sided player.
Right.
But just pound for pound, I don't think Bill Russell is even close to being the best center of all time. I think you can make the case for Kareem, Shaq, Hakeem Olajuwon, all those guys.
7 or 8 centers probably better than. I'd even go George Mikan was a better player than Bill Russell was.
Oh, now that is a hot take. So if Bill Russell, is Bill Russell a Hall of Famer? Oh, 100%. But do I think he belongs on the top 10 best NBA players of all time? No. If he was, I think he would personally belong at number 10, but number 11 would be creeping up on him something fierce. And the person I would pick to replace Bill Russell on the top 10 NBA players of all time list is Hakeem Olajuwon. I do think we need some foreign representation on all top 10 lists, provided they have the appropriate stats and accolades, and Hakeem fits that bill.
I watched Hakeem play when I was a kid. I watched him win those 2 championships, and his athleticism was a whole different level. To be his size, him and Dwight Howard are probably the 2 most athletic centers I've ever seen in my life. They could do anything they really wanted to. I've got Hakeem Olajuwon as my starting goalie on my all-time.
Starting goalie?
Starting goalie on my all-time soccer. That's how.
Oh yeah, that's right. He did play soccer before he came to the NBA.
Yeah,
that's
the reason
right.
why he became a basketball player is they said he was too tall to be a goalie, and so that's why he started playing basketball in the first place. He had never played basketball until he went to the University of Houston.
Hindsight's 20/20 to those soccer coaches, I bet.
Oh, I bet they're regretting that decision. You mean you don't want a really tall, super athletic guy in goal? Okay.
Yeah, seriously, with lightning fast reflexes and the intelligent reaction time he has, Hakeem's unbelievable. Bill Russell, what you've done for the league is impressive, but in the matters of context, a lot of stuff starts to not fall in his favor for Bill Russell. So, although I think we can all agree it's fucking hilarious when he received, I think, a Lifetime Achievement Award or something, and he pointed at Shaq, Dwight Howard, a bunch of NBA all-time centers, and whispered into the mic, "I'd kick all of your asses."
I mean, you can't roll in without some confidence now.
Oh yeah, he's
and maybe with modern, training techniques, it might have been a different story. But
yeah, I think Bill Russell nowadays would either be a two-way center or he'd be a Rudy Gobert type, where he just eats up the rim like no one's business.
Yeah, you sure you want to go into the paint?
Yeah, you sure?
Sure about that.
Oh god, especially in the 90s when players were allowed to smack each other around. Oh boy, he'd have a field day.
Oh yeah.
That will do it for us here at the Backyard Bullshit Podcast. Dealer would like to say thanks for watching. I mean, listening. We're having a great day, guys.
And I'll throw in, thank you guys for listening. It's always a pleasure. Hope to catch you guys again. Please stay safe out there with all the craziness going on. And we look forward to doing the show for you guys in the future.
Yes. So a quick tease before we sign off permanently. The next episode will feature the second edition of the Backyard Showdown. This time, Dealer and Coolhand will be building their all-time / favorite baseball players they can think of, and we're going to be putting them head-to-head. And then if you want Dealer's opinion on the scariest lineup possible, and Dealer's hottest sports take, we're going to do that 2 episodes from now. Until then, y'all stay safe from the coronavirus, and thanks for listening.